So let me tell you about these umbilical cord clamps. These, if you want to take a look, you can pass them around. I would quite like a few of them back. If you really want to keep one, please do. In fact, I'll keep one for myself so I can show it. These take about 8 minutes to print, and these are actually quite hard to get a hold of in the Haitian context. You can clip them closed, but it takes a few minutes to open them again. They're not supposed to be able to open too easily, that's the point. But the idea is they go onto a newborn baby's umbilical cord to keep them closed. And this is actually quite an important issue in Haiti, because 5% of the deaths of newborn babies is caused by sepsis, infection through the umbilical cord, because it hasn't been closed properly. Because there's no supply chain for these, they're quite hard to get a hold of. The only sort of supply chain for them at the moment is volunteers from the United States who are coming over to help out at the health centres, bring them in their backpacks when they come to Haiti, because it's quite hard to get a hold of them otherwise. You might bundle them into a larger order of medical equipment, but actually the more complex an order is, the harder it is to get it through customs. So these things tend not to get there at all. So the nurses resort to using hairclips or shoelaces. Or one of the stories we heard was actually during the birth, taking off the rubber gloves, which is quite important for protecting the nurse from infection. There's quite a high prevalence of HIV/AIDS. Taking off the rubber gloves, tearing them into strips, and using them to tie the umbilical cords closed to protect the umbilical cord. So, for the sake of 8 minutes, you can make this in the field. You can make small plastic medical devices. So to look at the economics of this, to buy one of these will cost about 10 cents from a manufacturer, and it will look very, very similar to this. If you go to a catalogue of medical components, you can buy these. It will cost about 10 cents per clip. But off the shelf in Haiti, they're about $1, assuming you can get them at all. Assuming you can get them to the country, they cost about $1. To print one of these on a regular household MakerBot printer, the cost of the plastic, the filament and the electricity, not obviously the capital cost of the $250, $400 for a printer, is about 20 cents. And then the labour cost in Haiti, setting it all up and getting it going, and then checking it and getting some of the excess plastic off it afterwards, getting it to the hospital, is about 40 cents. So the total cost of one of these is about 60 cents in Haiti, made in the field, which is about 40%, 40% cheaper than on the supply chain. The point is, it is still not as good as mass production. It's never going to be as good as mass production in terms of cost. But you get them. There is no supply chain issue. So you do get them, first of all, and second of all, they're cheaper than when the supply chain does work. Yeah, does that make sense? And the cost will come down. The cost will come down. So what we did in Haiti was we trained up the local maker community, a group called Haiti Humanitarian, to use 3D printers, and gave them the designs, and they supply the hospital. The hospital uses about, it has about 2 births per day. So, it might use about 50 of these per month, the main public hospital in Port-au-Prince. It's actually quite important, the consultation, the need and being able to meet rather than the global standards and needs assessment work that often takes place. But there is perhaps still a problem with people don't understand necessarily how that you can solve a problem, or what people don't necessarily understand what you can make. So what my colleague Mark did is he took along a catalogue of a commercial medical component supplier from the UK and showed them, they went through the catalogue and was speaking to the physicians about what they could do with. And it's things like oxygen splitters, IV bag hooks, plugs, and this is to connect different pipes together. These are the things which they find hard to source. And they are consumables, so they need them reasonably regularly. Now, just for the engineers, the detail on this, we found that the plastic that we were using, this is to attach a nebulizer, so that you can start putting sort of gaseous medicine essentially into the oxygen supply. The printed version leaks. The plastic is slightly porous, so it leaks through the surface. So you can coat it with acetone, nail polish remover, which is available just about everywhere, and seal it, but it's still not perfect. So there still needs to be some work if we're going to be using this for long periods of time to make sure that you don't essentially lose medicine to the environment. But the other thing is that I think you can't yet. Plastic. You can do this with some plastics, but you can't yet produce totally sterile plastic medical devices in the field. So anything that has to go inside the body, that has to be kept sterile, will have to be manufactured in more complex conditions than just a 3D print on a desktop. Yeah. Which is a bridge we're going to have to cross at some point. Someone on the internet, which there's a lot of people on the internet, someone designed a fully 3D printable prosthetic hand. And if we'd watched the rest of the video, as far as we're aware, this is the first one that was printed in the developing country. But it's a very simple thing that is designed to, as you swing your arm, it opens and closes. So it's a temporary solution to the problem of someone feeding and watering themselves. The idea of a 3D printed prosthetic hand to help them pick up a cup is quite a powerful idea as well. So there's a bit of experimentation, but we found this on a website called Thingiverse. And we downloaded the design for free and printed it out, and there you go. Training course. You can't get umbilical cord clamps everywhere, but Coca-Cola, my God. Recycling, we talked a little bit about that in the video. The idea is if we can start using plastic waste as the feedstock for 3D printers. There's all the research going on with that. The key findings, we can make useful things for hospitals. We're not going to say anything more than that at the moment about the potential of 3D printing. I've told you about the idea, I've told you about the concept, but I'm not going to say anything more, not going to make any promises more than we know we can make useful things for hospitals. Okay? It's still very early days for this technology. You've got to be able to test things, not just make things. 3D scanners aren't great, but they're getting there. You need a decent power supply. With this stuff, you can prepare a lot in advance, and we're developing a catalogue of things that we're able to print in the field. Your business model or operating model is really important to consider, as it will be with any innovation. This is important. Reactions are positive. You know, if you're using other innovations in the humanitarian context, like biometric scanners or fingerprint scanners or UAVs, drones taking satellite imagery, people react to them in a very mixed way, depending what their association with drones might be, or who is it, because you don't necessarily understand the motivations of the person with the biometric scanners, you know. So, but with 3D printers, people are like, oh, get it, understand it. You know, we have printers. I've seen a printer. This is a 3D printer. It's something that we have control over, that we understand what it's doing. So the reactions to it are quite positive, and that isn't true for every innovation. The value to supply chains can be huge. You need a technical expert who also knows about 3D printing. So it's really important. You can't just deploy people who know about 3D printing. They've got to be able to test stuff. They've got to be able to improvise. They've got to be able to train local people. It's basically, it's not a field where enthusiastic amateurs should be deployed. Not yet, anyway. I'm not sure it ever will be. I don't think a disaster relief zone is the place where you should be deploying enthusiastic amateurs anyway. But plastic recycling is possible, but only just. We're going to be doing more stuff at Field Ready. Interesting things will be the field trials we're doing later this year, trying other remote manufacturing technologies like small extruders, working with going to the Oxfam warehouse at Vista and analysing what they can do.
What?
Sorry?
What did you say? Other things like small...
Small extruders. So if you want to make a bucket, 3D printing one will be a disaster. Because it's just going to do this about 3 days, layering up. But if you have an extruder, you can do it in a few seconds. Because essentially injection molding, but you can get very small extruders these days. Then, yeah, and then I want to go back to this idea of humanitarian makers in the couple of minutes I've got left. What we at Field Ready are looking for people to do, if they have 3D designs of things that could be useful in humanitarian response, share them. If you go onto the websites for 3D printers like Thingiverse, you will find an awful lot of Star Wars figurines, an awful lot of World of Warcraft stuff, an awful lot of key rings, an awful lot of attempts to try and get Lego to connect to Meccano. Stuff that isn't really very useful in a disaster context, but if you have a design that could be useful, share it with us. And if you're interested in looking at what's going on here, you can have a look at the open source appropriate technology pages on Acropedia. But we're also looking for people to design. If you have design skills, 3D CAD and modeling skills, and you can design stuff and get in touch with us, and then when a need arises, we can contact you, say, please can you knock up a design of a wing nut or something, and we'll print it out. But also looking for people to deploy. So the idea of makers that we can train up to be humanitarians, or humanitarians that have maker skills that can be deployed in the field to be the technical experts. And that's kind of what we're looking for through the Humanitarian Makers Network. If you go to this web address, it simply at the moment goes to a LinkedIn website, and we're trying to bring together humanitarians and makers, link them together. People who might identify needs and the people who can meet those needs in that LinkedIn group. As the community gets a bit bigger, it might get a more advanced website.